Hey, what is up? It's Andrea. So, first off, thank you so much to everyone who watched my first video. It meant the world. I keep joking with everyone, like, oh my gosh, I have 150 views. Like, I won't forget about you when I'm famous, but, like, really, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch a dumb 20-minute video about me getting ready. Not even. But I just wanted to sit down today because I just had lunch with Lee Cockrell, which I know like no one knows who that is, but he was the vice president for Walt Disney World Resort from 1990 to 2006. This may sound
like, okay, whatever,
to some people, but like anyone that knows who I am knows that Disney is my lifeline. It's my passion. It's really everything I care about. And so just like having lunch with him and sitting down and talking to him about management and not really too much about the Disney experience, just because it has changed so much in the past 13 years since he worked for them. But just sat down and was like, just talked about like what it takes to be a good manager and just to be a good person, really. And it just kind of inspired me just to talk about like my Disney journey. That was so stupid.
My Disney journey.
When I slept in the same room as Mickey Mouse when I went to bed. No, I'm kidding. No, people ask me about my Disney college program all the time. That's what I'm known for, which I have no problems with. Working for Disney was the highlight of my life, and I can't wait till I graduate so I can go back and not even finish, but just restart my journey with the Disney Corporation and just really, like, I think, strive. Like, I think that's when my full potential is really going to be, but that's a whole other story. So let's just talk about my college program experience. So last fall, fall of 2017, I was not doing the best mentally. I was going through a pretty hard breakup, and I just wasn't super happy, and I just knew that I knew that I needed to get away, but I was like, I can't do that. I can't just, like, leave. I'm in school. And I always had wanted to do the Disney college program, but, like, I wasn't going to do it until after I graduated. But I found out that I could actually do it in the merchandising field, and with a little talking with my counselor and then a little talking with my employer at Disney, I was able to do more of the behind the scenes type stuff, and that allowed me for it to count as a professional internship for merchandising. That's later on. But I just knew I needed to get away, so I just, on a whim, applied for the Disney college program. I'd applied before and got denied, which is fine. And then I applied, and like 3 days later, I heard back and was like, we want to set up a phone interview, which, like, I just cried. I remember I went to Applebee's with my roommates, and just because I was so excited, and they were like, we have to celebrate, and it just was like, oh my god, like, this is such a cool step. And then I did my phone interview. Before it happened, my desk was covered in Post-it notes of questions that I thought that they might ask that I could come up with the answers to. I Googled interview questions. I thought of everything I could think of and just wrote down the answers, like, in little notes so that I just would be prepared, because I was like, I want to not be put on the spot and have, like, a delayed answer and she think that I'm, like, stupid. And my phone interview went really well. The woman actually, like, said that I had an amazing speaking voice, which is funny because now I work at a phone center, so apparently that is true. But yeah, it went really well. And then I heard back from the phone interview like 3 weeks later, and it was like, you got the job for Spring Advantage, which is February 5th to August 2nd. And I was like, holy crap. Okay, I remember I called my parents. My parents were like, whoa, are you gonna do it? Like, what's happening? Oh my god. And I was just like, I know. The important thing is that I got in. That's so cool. Let's talk about it later. And then we just kind of talked it through and, like, weighed the pros and cons of going part-time for a semester, and leaving and going to Florida with no one I knew and no car and nothing. And I just kind of weighed everything, and just for my mental health and my personal well-being, we just decided to do it. And in my head, I was like, if I say no, I know I'm going to regret this the whole semester, that I'm in Iowa and not in Orlando, Florida. So that was kind of that. We drove from Illinois to Kentucky February 2nd to celebrate my niece's birthday. We were there until the 3rd, which is her actual birthday. And then we drove from Kentucky to Florida, and we got there on the 4th, and we stayed at Pop Century Resort. And then I was so nervous the next morning. My check-in time was at 8:30, and I woke up at 4 to curl my hair, even though it was Florida and humid, and do my makeup and tried on like 5 different outfits because I knew I was going to be taking my IG pictures, and I was like, what shirt shows my shows my sleeves but doesn't, like, I overthought, like I went way into it. And then 7:30 rolled around and we left because we were trying to be early, and we got there at like 8. We just had to sit outside for 30 minutes. And then I went and checked in. It was super quick. Took my ID pictures, and then I went to my apartment where I knew no one. I didn't know any of my roommates, didn't know their names, didn't know where they were from. I just found out that day that I was going to have 5 roommates. There was going to be 6 of us, and that I was living in Chatham, which Chatham is where I wanted to live, so that's okay. And I went to my apartment, and no one was there. Everyone had claimed a bed except the far room top bunk that was open, but there was stuff on everyone's bed, but no one was there. And so I just was like,
Okay, I guess I'll take the top bunk.
which turned out being great because I'm a loud sleeper, and then my roommate Julie had to sleep under me instead of vice versa. But I plopped my stuff down and kind of unpacked a little bit, and then my parents and I left to go to Target to get more stuff. And then yeah, long story short, I went to the parks with my parents the next day. They bought tickets, and then I moved in and I started my training. I found out my location was going to be the west side of Disney Springs, which is Candy Cauldron, Marvel Superhero Headquarters, Star Wars Galactic Outpost, and then the glow carts for Disney Springs. When I was in my training, and I asked a woman, I was like, oh, where's this? Like, what does West Side Floater mean? She was like,
oh, you're on the west side of Disney Springs.
and I was like, what does that mean? And she was like,
Yeah, just the rest of Disney Springs doesn't really like
I
that.
was like, cool, like, that's a good way to start my time here, thanks, awesome. So I started training. It was fine. I made some friends pretty quick, like my really good friend Sabrina, who's like one of my closest friends from my program. She scared the crap out of me the first couple days because she had been spring, so she had been there a month already, so she was experienced. And like, that was the bad part about Spring Advantage, was all the spring people had already kind of made their friends, and so I was just like out there, and I was like, please be my friend. Training happened. I started working. The bad thing about Disney Springs is the hours are later than any other park, so most nights I didn't get off until 1 a.m. and then that was weeknights, and then weekends I would get off around 2:30, and then I would normally get home at like 3:30. So that kind of stunk. It took a lot of time to adjust my like entire schedule. Like, I literally had to learn to sleep during the day when everyone was being loud, and do things at night. But you learn, you get adjusted. But the bad thing was a lot of the people that I was super close friends with were spring, and so they were leaving in May. So that was like Sabrina, Hannah, oh my god, Caroline, the girl that I knew from my school, like everybody was leaving in May. And so I was kind of like, ooh, this is maybe not my best decision. Like, I'm not going to have any friends now. And Olivia was transferring zones, and Olivia was one of my really good friends. So I was like, okay, whatever. We'll make the best of it. So then my parents came in May, the week after everybody left. So my parents came. It was super fun. It was me, my parents, and my niece. It was awesome. And then disaster struck. And when I was at work one day in May, something happened to my knee. We still aren't exactly sure what happened, besides the fact that fluid filled my kneecap, and I had already had really bad knees from playing softball and from dancing my whole life. And so fluid filled my kneecap and got rid of the rest of the cartilage in my knee. So my knee basically became useless. and I had to go on something called transitional duty, which is also called like light duty, or it's just what you do when you're on disability, basically, so that Disney can still pay you for doing a job. So I went to Epcot for 2 weeks of it, and then Pop Century for 2 weeks of it. And at Epcot, I just was like gluing the sticks on the Duffy fans that they give out at Epcot, and I was folding all the napkins for the restaurants in Epcot. So that was just a lot. I mean, it was nice because I got to sit and rest my knee, and it was nice that I was getting paid, but it just was very emotionally draining because my knee was in so much pain all the time. I couldn't bend it, I couldn't stand, I could only sit with it elevated, like, and these were 10-hour shifts of me just sitting down folding napkins, and it just was really emotionally draining, because they didn't know what was wrong with my knee, and they didn't know if I was gonna have to be sent home to get surgery. And then they sent me to Pop Century, where I just literally like bagged napkins and silverware for hours on end, like 10-hour shifts again. It just like was really draining me. So by the end, like middle of June, I was just done. Like, not done, because obviously I was still at Disney and it was nice, but I couldn't even go to Disney on my days off because I was in so much pain, and I just didn't know what was happening, and my family wasn't there, and the doctors weren't giving me answers because the doctors at Disney weren't like specialists in that, and so they had to schedule me for appointments to go to orthopedic doctors, which were in Orlando, that I had to get lifts for because I didn't have a car, and so they had to hire me lifts, and it was just a huge thing, and I had to go to like 4 different orthopedic doctors, and I had to get an MRI and a CT scan and an x-ray, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then finally, like mid-June, I went to an orthopedic doctor, and he explained what happened. And he also explained just that my kneecap was wrong, basically. That's a whole other story, but he just said it's gonna be like this until you get knee reconstruction surgery when you're older now, so deal with it and move on. And so, still in as much pain as ever, I got sent back to Disney Springs, which was good because I had no friends. All the people on transitional duty were old. Like, no offense, but they were all, I don't know why I said no offense, but they're all like 60-plus-year-olds that got hurt on the job and were just complaining about working. And so I got sent back to Disney Springs where all my friends were, and I was never so happy to see somebody, like see people again, like my friend Hannah. That's when we really bonded, and I was kind of bummed at that point because I found out that I was supposed to be trained for kitchen at Candy Cauldron, which is like if you work at Disney in a kitchen area, it just means you get to like make this stuff, which is way more fun than just selling it, in my opinion. I mean, I didn't work it, I know it's super stressful. All my friends that were in kitchen told me it was insanely stressful, but that was like the one thing I really wanted to do, and I found out I was supposed to be trained for it, but then I got put on transitional, and by the time I was back, it was almost July, and I only had a month left, and the training was like a 2-week long training process, so they just decided it wasn't worth it. So I spent the rest of my time, for the most part, working day shifts at Star Wars, which I hadn't done before. I hadn't done any day shifts, literally my entire program, but another guy went on transitional duty, an older man that was like full-time, so they gave me his shifts. So I was working daytime hours at Candy Cauldron or Star Wars Galactic Outpost. And it was fine. I mean, all the people that are working in the days at Disney Springs are full-time people, so there's no college program people, so they weren't really any of my friends, except Hannah. When we worked at Candy Cauldron together, that would be fun. But at that point, I was just kind of exhausted. My birthday was coming up, and I knew that I wasn't going to have anybody there for my birthday. Don't get me wrong, I was at Magic Kingdom on my birthday. It was awesome. The Dapper Dans sang to me happy birthday like on Main Street, and like the week before, Groot and Star-Lord sang to me, which if anybody knows is like my dream come true. But just when July rolled around, it was so hot and my leg was just in constant pain every day. It was swollen every day. I had to ice it every night. Because I still wasn't like really used to the pain, and I wasn't used to like what I was gonna eventually have to deal with for like every day. And I have to adjust how I'm walking now, and like I can only go up a certain amount of stairs a day, or I know it's just gonna be in a lot of pain. And so just July rolled around and it was just exhausting and I just was really tired and I was kind of ready to go home. Obviously I didn't want to leave Disney because it's Disney and it's amazing, but I just was tired. August rolled around, my parents were coming to move me out. That was a very emotional week. I cried a lot. I left my favorite supervisor. Well, she wasn't a supervisor. She was just a coordinator. Her name was Jennifer. She was like the literal reason that I got through my program. I cried leaving her. I sobbed after watching the Guardians of the Galaxy show at Epcot. I literally sobbed. Like, a man came up to me and asked me if I was okay after the show because I was crying so hard and he thought I wasn't able to breathe. And it was just a really emotional week just because I knew that those past couple months I wasn't really able to take full advantage of everything about the Disney College Program because I couldn't move very well. And when I think about it, I try not to think about those parts because I do know that I was thinking very negatively about everything. But it's just kind of hard when you're in that scenario. And I had a weird fight with one of my closest friends there. And then my other really good friend there left for the summer to go overseas. And so I just was like really emotional. And I know that I wasn't thriving. So I try not to think about that when I think about Disney because it's still my favorite place in the world and I still wish every day that I was back there. I would take a 13-hour shift working in Candy Cauldron, like over being in 40 below weather here right now. But it kind of, in an odd way, did the opposite to me that it does to most people because for most people, not most, but a good amount of people that I know do the Disney College Program and then extend into another semester and then they just stay. They either transfer to UCF and then work at Disney part-time or they drop out of college and just work at Disney. Mine was kind of the opposite effect. It reminded me why I am going to college. I've wanted to do visual merchandising for the Disney parks since I knew what visual merchandising was. Like when I found out about it in high school, I instantly knew like what I wanted to do. It was actually, I learned about it at a Disney park. I was talking to an employee, which was super cool. I still think that was one of the like moments in my life where like things just happened for a reason. But we could talk about that another time. I'm saying a lot, I'm sorry. But it just reminded me why I'm going to college because I don't want to work in a retail setting my whole life. People are just rude. My store sold build your own lightsabers and we were out of them for about 3 months. And I cannot count the amount of times that people were so horrifically rude to me and cursed at me in every language because we didn't have them. Or once we didn't have a mug with Groot on it and a man told me I was a waste of space. And another time a woman said that I was the worst person that they'd ever encountered. But on different occasions, people told me that I was the best Disney employee they ever had and that they could tell that I just embodied the like Disney mentality. And that one day I was working at Magic Kingdom and someone came up to me and they just were like, well, we were having a conversation and when it ended, they were like, you are what Disney is about. Like when I look at you, I can feel the Disney like energy radiating off of you. And I went home that day and I just cried because I was like, that's all I've ever wanted. So although there were definite negative sides of my college program, overall, it was one of the best experiences of my life. It changed me for who I am today. I'm a much stronger person. I'm a much more emotional person just because I just went through a lot. But it definitely reminded me why I'm going to college, and I cannot wait to graduate and head straight back down to Orlando and just apply for every visual merchandising job they have. Like, I will work anywhere. I will do anything just because I want to do something with that company. I want to make a difference in that company. There's so much room for growth in that company when it comes to apparel, and they're really learning just from all the Etsy shops that are happening right now. And I just can't wait to be there for when they are really starting to just work with like what the consumer actually wants and to involve more social media and just kind of get on that kind of thing. But that's a whole other story. But that's kind of my Disney College program in a nutshell. I didn't really talk about that happy of experiences, but so many great things happened. I met so many amazing friends. I lived in Orlando for 6 months. I had Snow White walk me around Germany and pick flowers with me, and like I said, I had Groot sing me happy birthday, and I had Baymax deflate as I gave him a hug, and I had Kylo Ren know who I was, and I had Darth Maul whisper in my face. Like, the experiences I had will never go away. They will forever be some of the best experiences of my life, and if anyone asked me to do if they should do the Disney College program, I would say yes in under a second. It is such a wonderful experience, and even the people who don't have an amazing experience still say that it's something that they wouldn't change for anything. My one tip that I'm going to give before I go is, if you do the Disney College program, one, do a lot of research. There's just a lot of different housing. Look into how you can find your roommates before you set up with them. Like, I loved my roommates to pieces, don't get me wrong. Still talk to them all the time. But I know that added a lot of stress and anxiety on me, not knowing who my roommates were. And then also go into it remembering that it's a job. I think the reason that a lot of people are only there for a couple weeks and then they quit, which I knew a lot of people like that, is they went into it just thinking, oh, I'm living at Disney. Yes, you're living at Disney. Yes, you're getting to go into Disney for free and getting discounts and so many amazing opportunities, but the main reason you're there is to work, and they're going to work you a lot. You just kind of have to remember that for every rude person, there's like 4 people that are really great and that you have really memorable experiences with. Like, I had so many people that said that, like, I changed their trip by our interaction. And so, like, those are what I think about before I think about when people would scream at me and, like, tell me that I was stupid. So I think just that's my number one tip, is just always remember it's a job first. Even if you don't like to think it is, it's a job. It's going to be hard. There's going to be bad days, but there's also going to be good days. You're not going to like some coworkers. You're going to love some coworkers. You might not like some bosses, but you may love other bosses. And you just kind of have to go into that mindset where, as long as you're calm and you do the best that you can, everything's going to be okay. Alright, so that was my video on my Disney College program experience. Let me know if you have any more specific questions. I know I didn't really answer a whole lot. I just kind of talked about my overall experience. 6 months is a long time. I could definitely break it down to a lot more things. So let me know if you have any questions, or if you have any other video ideas, definitely leave them in the comments. Like I said, I'm super glad that people enjoyed my first video, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. I don't know my posting schedule yet. This will be twice in a week, and I might not post again for another week, but I could post tomorrow. I don't know. I'll keep you updated. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Love you, and see you guys next time.